Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Welcome to drboystv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. And today we're going to talk about the five richest Black families in America. These are five Black families that are leading the pack in terms of economics and wealth. And I'm going to talk about how they got there and what what family wealth looks like, how to obtain it, and the difference between rich people and people who are not so rich. So get comfortable, buckle up your seatbelt. We're going to get started on the Black Financial Channel right now. Welcome to the Black Financial Channel. That's theblackfinancialchannel.com. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I am your friendly neighborhood finance professor. On the Black Financial Channel, my goal is to use my PhD to help you learn as much about wealth and economics as you possibly can. My goal is to also make sure that we understand that we are Black first. It's okay for us to love ourselves, that we're going to have to work hard. We can't be scared. We can't give up. We can't take second place. We can't take no shorts. We can't sell ourselves short. We must love ourselves if we want to be successful. We must also educate our kids, put them ahead of the curve, teach them early. That is what we must do. If you agree with that philosophy, put a B1 in the chat, hashtag B1. Matt says you are an inspiration, sir. Well, you are an inspiration, Matt. Thank you. I can't tell. It looks like Matt might not even be Black, but it's okay. It's important to understand that we don't hate anybody else. You ain't got to be Black to be here. There are a lot of non-Black people that come to this channel, and every one of you is welcome. As long as you respect us, we will respect you. That's how we operate. All right, guys. So anyway, I wanted to talk to you guys about something. I'm sitting here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, home of Black Wall Street. And I came to visit my family here, and I was going through. I saw this list on this website. There's a website called The Family Nation, and they list the five richest Black families in America. And I thought that it was a great list, and I thought that there were some points to kind of cover on this, to kind of understand family wealth. So first off, let's just cue ourselves up mentally and just understand what we're all about. How many of you want to have a wealthy family? Give me a yes in the chat. If not want to, how many of you are going to? How many of you are going to? It's funny. I gotta go back to that. One interesting thing I noticed. I'll share this. When I told you guys about the time I spent on the phone with Kanye West for many hours, and congratulations to Kanye. I heard he's reworking his deal with Adidas. That was what I told him I think he should do. I think he should try to find some way to reconnect with them. Adidas was losing because of Kanye. Also, Adidas has not been able to sell their Beyonce products like they thought. So I told Kanye, I said, man, I think you should work this out. And I really think that $250 million a year that you were making, you could do a lot of difference in the Black community. In fact, the amount of money that Kanye West was making every year, he could literally endow 5 HBCUs per year with the money that he has. Literally, in endowments, the amount of money it takes to kind of get an institution going. The top 10 HBCUs in the country, their average endowment is probably about $100 to $150 million. He could literally endow several HBCUs every single year if he wanted to, but you got to have the right mindset. So I couldn't tell him what to do with his money, but I said, I wish I could talk you into it. So maybe one day he'll listen. Maybe one day the message will get across. But anyway, so how many of you are going to have a wealthy family? One day, one of your kids is going to be as wealthy as Kanye, and they're going to have the right mindset. They're going to be 100% B1. They're going to want to build in the community. So give me a yes in the chat if you are going to create a wealthy family. I think it's very important to start there because it's really important for you to understand that when you talk about economically strong mindsets, you have to really have intentionality. You have to have intentionality. I'm not a big believer in victimhood. I'm not a big believer in constantly walking around complaining about what other people are and are not doing for us. I'm not a believer that we need approval from anybody in order for us to be successful. I'm not looking for anybody to acknowledge me. I've been sitting over here doing my thing quietly, talking to millions of people every single week. I ain't been doing nothing. I ain't trying to beg nobody to put me in mainstream media. I don't need CNN. I don't want ABC. I don't need NBC. I don't need none of them. I ain't trying to get a Netflix deal. I ain't trying to get none of that. I believe that you have to have intentionality. And one of the things I think that as Black people, we must understand is that if you want to compete, you cannot feel sorry for yourself. If you want to win, you cannot act like you are just sort of meant to be in second place. If you want to get ahead in the race, you got to realize that some people are going to cheat. Some people are going to block you. It's part of the game. That's how warfare works. And the thing I understand about economics, and remember, America is a capitalist society, is capitalism is warfare. And a soldier cannot feel sorry for himself. Do you understand what I'm saying? Give me a yes if you understand what I'm saying. I think that's very important because sometimes some of the civil rights talk in terms of like, woe is me, it's so hard to be Black, and it hurt my feelings. That's not really what's going to help you succeed, because when your adversary realizes that they can hurt your feelings just by calling you a name or not acknowledging you, then they're going to use that weapon against you every chance they can get. They're going to break you down every opportunity they have. they're going to break you down, bust you up like a little punk and chop you up in little pieces and leave you bloody on the sidewalk every opportunity they get. So do you understand what I'm telling you? I'm not trying to say that you don't have a reason to be to have issues with America. I got issues too. I grew up in Kentucky. Me and Muhammad Ali left Louisville, Kentucky for the same reasons. We both left at 18 because we felt like we were disrespected in our home city. I get it. I understand racism better than 99% of the people in this chat. I know what it's like to be poor. I remember what it's like eating bologna sandwiches with no bologna. I know what it's like to get the lights cut off. I know what it's like to get the heat cut off. I know what it's like to get the car repossessed. I know what it's like to struggle. So stop acting like the struggle defines you. The struggle does not define you. Racism does not define you. Other people do not define you. You define you. Okay, so that's important to understand. So the first thing I need y'all to understand is that we want to build a space of winners, and winners ain't got much time to feel bad about what the opponents are doing. You focus on what you're doing. Now, as I move forward, I'm gonna give you guys this list. I had to put the content. I had to frame the conversation. Y'all know how I am. I'm not just here to gossip about it. I'm here to break it down and help us learn something from this. So could you do me a favor, please? And please hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, share, subscribe. Also, we will be in Los Angeles March 10th and 11th. We will do a 2-day Black Wealth Boot Camp, which will focus specifically on family wealth and building wealth as a collective. So it may not be your biological family. It may just be your investment club or a group of people that you're cool with, whatever. We're going to break all that down. And you can find those people at this event. So we're going to be in LA March 10th and 11th. If you want to learn more, just go to boycewatkins.com. And the focal point will be my new book. It's called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Powers, 10 simple steps any group or any family can use to achieve a wealth legacy that will last for the next 200 years. I know how to do this. My doctorate's in finance. When I got my PhD in finance in 2002, I was the only Black man on the planet to get my PhD in finance in 2002. Only Black man or Black woman. Nobody else got it that year because it was hard as hell. So my goal is to get as much out of that PhD by sharing this knowledge with as many of you as possible. And I want to see you succeed. I want to see you win. I want to see you on top. No feeling sorry for ourselves. We don't do that up in here. All right, so let's move on. All right, so here's the list. Let me just jump right into the list. I know some of y'all got here a second ago, and you can maybe put something in the comments to say he starts the list at the 7:20 mark. I know because I know how I get. I get passionate about this. Sometimes I overtalk it, and I apologize, but I don't really apologize. Sorry, not sorry. In the words of Amaretta, the great rapper out of Atlanta. Sorry, not sorry. All right, so here's the top 5 families in terms of wealth. This is according to thefamilynation.com. They said there are a handful of billionaire African Americans in the U.S. The United States has the most billionaires in the world with around 2,600. Only 7 African Americans are billionaires in the United States. The billionaire club remains exclusive. According to Business Insider, the median net worth of Black families in the USA has not grown in the past 3 decades, while their counterparts have added $50K to their median net worth at the same time. That's an important point. We've talked about that on this channel. I've explained to you some of the wealth traps that are out there, not just for Black people, but also for really all Americans, but Black people fall in the traps first. And it's very important for you to understand that if you do what everybody else is doing, you're going to get what everybody else is getting. So if you don't want to fall in the wealth traps, then figure out your own strategy. You cannot follow the strategy of everybody else because student loans, things like that kills you. Excessive consumption kills you. Working for other people kills you. All these things drain your wealth. Not making an estate plan, not planning for your death, that kills your wealth. So it's very easy for me to see where the wealth leaks are. It's just important that we internalize that. So let's keep going. Define these odds and astronomical differences of representation. Some Black families have actually stayed in the rare club. Okay, so here are the families that they list, and I'm just going to go through the list quickly, and then I'm going to give you some commentary in terms of what I see when I see this list. So the wealthiest Black family in America is Robert Smith. Robert Smith is a tech billionaire. He's basically in venture capital. My brother's also in venture capital, so he's connected to a lot of startups that have really grown in wealth. He's worth about $8 billion. Now, some of you may debate whether or not he actually has a Black family because his wife is not Black. His wife, I think, is white. So I don't know. It's up to you to decide if you consider that to be a Black family or not. I know some of you are okay with it. Some of you feel like that's an issue when the wealth is kind of leaving the community, but it's okay. I'm not here to judge. I have people in my own family who didn't. I was determined to marry a Black woman. I'm just gonna tell you the truth. I no disrespect to anybody else, but I knew that when I get married, I wasn't gonna marry somebody who wasn't Black. And but I know people who think differently, right? And I respect that. I have no problem with that per se, in terms of what you do with your life. But I do think that there is a conversation to be had, and I think that should be heard. Now, someone says, let's see, can you show your PhD? You can actually look up anybody that says they have a PhD. You can actually look up on Google their dissertation and find their dissertation, find out who was on their dissertation committee. I got my PhD at The Ohio State University in the year 2002. My dissertation chair was Professor Andrew Caroli, who's now on the faculty at Cornell, if I'm not mistaken. Very nice man, very extremely nice man. All right, so you can't tell me every white person is terrible, because I just don't. That's not my experience. I met some good people that helped me along the way, and he was one of them. So shout out to Professor Andrew Caroli. So the top family is Robert Smith, smart guy, tech billionaire. He's the guy that paid off the student loans of the entire graduating class in Morehouse. Very proud of him. Next is Dave Stewart. Dave Stewart's family. Now, if I look up Dave Stewart, if you can probably Google David Stewart. I admit I don't know a ton about this guy. I should probably know more about him. So let me just look something up right now, so we can kind of pull up some information on him. Okay, so it says that he's worth about $6 billion. He is the co-founder and majority owner of Worldwide Technology, a closely held provider of information technology services. The St. Louis-based company provides cloud computing and security services, as well as digital consulting. It employs 8,000 people around the world and has an annual revenue of $14.5 billion. Good for him. Good for him. Good for him. Okay, so Dave Stewart, very wealthy, doing extremely well. Technology. I think that one of the things you should pick up here is that if you have kids, how many of you have kids that are good, or that are good with math or science, or maybe want to be engineers or something like that, or anybody in your family? How many of you have somebody in your family that either became an engineer or wants to be an engineer, or can do computers or technology, or is good with even their cell phone and cell phone apps or whatever it is, right? Give me a yes in the chat if you have somebody like that in your family. All right. If you do, here's the thing you got to understand. Engineers have a certain mindset. They are some of the smartest people I know. I taught mathematics at the University of Kentucky. I have a lot of respect for engineers and mathematicians. The class that I taught, the Calculus 1 class, engineering calculus, it was the weed out class. There was a class that they created just to weed out the students that didn't want to really become engineers. They weren't ready to do the work. So I would fail about 30-40% of my students in that class. So engineers are super smart. In my PhD program, the engineers were among the best in the class. Now, here's the thing. One challenge the engineers have, though, is that some of them, because they're so mathematically inclined, maybe introverts, they don't develop the communication skills necessary for them to really show people how smart they are. So they sort of put themselves in, and I had this tendency when I was doing my doctoral work. I would just sit there in the computer lab writing computer programs all day, and you just kind of get into your own world, and you don't even want to deal with human beings. You rather deal with an algorithm than with people. Well, the problem is that when you do that, you end up limiting yourself. You become the smartest, most best kept secret in the world. And you end up becoming, I think it was Steve Wozniak, that worked with, I think it was Woj, who worked with Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was a founder of Apple, he was an extrovert. He was a people person. He knew how to communicate value. He knew how to make a sale. So he went to Woj and said, and who was the computer guy who would sit there and just put computers together. And he saw this amazing stuff he was doing with these PCs. So what he did was he said, I'll pay you, $50 for every circuit board you make for me. And he was going off selling them for $500, right? Well, because he knew how to actually take Woj's brilliance and market that to the world. So what I'm saying to you is that the people that have done best in technology, in my view, are the technologists / engineers that eventually learn how to develop soft skills that come with business. They learn how to network. They learn how to communicate. They learn all these things that you learn in business school. So if you're like an engineer in undergrad and then you go get an MBA, those students tend to be at the top of the class. They get the best jobs. They get pushed right up the corporate ladder, because it's hard to push an engineer up the corporate ladder if all they know how to do is fix a part. Not to say that these things are not important, but you have to develop those other skills. And that's what I see when I see Dave Stewart and the other brother, Robert Smith. I just see two techies who became people, if you know what I mean. And they learned how to communicate in a way that is done in business. And that's when they were able to scale their greatness and turn it into something amazing. And then that next level is not just climbing the corporate ladder, but building your own corporate ladder. That's what we do in the Black Business School. In the Black Business School, our slogan is, don't just climb the corporate ladder, build one. Give me a yes if you understand what I'm saying. Black people don't get the same opportunities as white people. Black people cannot rise up the corporate ladder the way white people do. Those companies were not built for you, but somebody created those companies. Somebody built the IBM. Somebody built the UPSs. Somebody built the Google. Somebody built the Coca-Cola. So the question becomes, what are you building? What are you building? And I know that building something and manifesting something of your own is foreign to some of you because you were never introduced to that idea. But when I look at some of these companies and I see this big, massive, multi-billion dollar monstrosity that's making, $10 million a day, I'm sitting there thinking, where did this come from? Who started that? And then you look up and you read the history of some of these companies. It's very humble, like how Walmart, where their entire family is full of billionaires. Like Sam Walton has several children. All of them are multi-billionaires. Where did that come from? Well, it was a little guy who started a damn store. He started a store. So his greatness was not luck, not just luck. It wasn't a silver spoon in his mouth. His greatness was thinking big. Thinking big. It wasn't like he worked harder than you. He didn't work harder than a lot of you work on your jobs. You probably worked harder than him. But he also thought big. He had vision. He took a chance. He invested in something. He created something of his own, these little Walmart stores. And next thing you know, they're all over the place. And now his family is making money hand over fist. So ultimately, that ability, that desire, that drive to scale is one of the best things you can ever give your child. You got to teach your children to think big. If they don't think big, then they're not going to do big things. A smart person who thinks small is just going to do a lot of really small things extremely well, and no one will ever know that they were even here. But if you have a child that works hard, does the right things, and has great ideas, and they think big, then they have a shot at hitting that millionaire, billionaire status. Okay. So anyway, do me a favor. I'm gonna get to the last three. Thumbs up, thumbs up. If you could, please hit the share. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when we go live. Also, this podcast is on Spotify. Do not forget that. And my new book is The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, which you can find on my website, boycewatkins.com, or you can also find it on Amazon. If you buy it on Amazon, if you could leave a review, I'd appreciate it. And also, there's a training on my website that's free. You can watch called How to Make Money Without Working. Most wealthy people make their money and they don't go to work every day. They don't have a job. They don't have a boss. They don't have the same strict constraints a lot of us have. So there's a process to just understanding how this works. You can actually literally, if you wanted to, set your kids up right now where they'll never have to work for the rest of their lives. Every single person watching this video who has children under the age of 10 has that ability to put your child in a position by the time they're 25 where they never have to work ever again. And then you can also put yourself in that position. So if you'd like to understand that, feel free to go to my website, boycewatkins.com. It's right there on the page. All right. So here's the rest of the list. Let's see. Okay. So the top three are kind of the usual suspects. I like Robert Smith and Dave Stewart stories, and I like the fact that they're number one and number two on the list because that's more realistic for most people, right? Becoming a tech person or a business owner is something that any of us can do. Becoming, a Michael Jordan, well, only Michael Jordan can be Michael Jordan, right? So actually Michael Jordan's on the list along with Oprah Winfrey and JayZ. So I'm actually going to talk about those three together, not out of disrespect for them, but to kind of put that into context too. So here's the deal with Oprah, in my view. What I see with Oprah is this. When Oprah first got started, she became famous, right? She became famous and then she became rich and famous, which is very, very nice. A lot of people are very famous, but they're not very rich. Maybe some people are rich, but not very famous. She became rich and famous. But what Oprah also did was she became a rich, famous owner. She set the model, in my view. I believe Tyler Perry picked up a lot of his model from watching Oprah because Oprah didn't just host the show. She didn't just get the shine. She became the owner of that show. And by being the owner of the show, that allowed her to receive the benefits of what she was actually growing. So as her show grew and her platform grew, her wealth also grew. Right. So with Oprah, what I like about Oprah's pathway to success is that she was a person that positioned herself to think big. She's almost like a musician who owns their own masters and then owns the record label and all that. The key word, the number one word in all of this is ownership. If you notice, every single person on this billionaire list, not one of them is an employee. Not one of them is working a 9 to 5. Not one of them is working for anybody. Every single person on this list is an owner of something, and not just these top five. Matter. What matters also is that there are thousands and thousands of Black people who are millionaires who did it, in various ways. So, maybe they own a trucking company, maybe they own a blast washing service, maybe they own, a lawn care service. You'd be amazed at all the different ways that people become millionaires. I think it's very important to understand that because sometimes we get hypnotized by entertainment. Sometimes entertainment is marketed to us like this big cosmic white supremacist lottery ticket that very few of us win. You get the LeBron Jameses are marketed to you, the Michael Jordans are marketed to you. And I think that that's fundamentally unfair because remember, if LeBron James was not 6'8", 240, 250 pounds, he wouldn't be able to do what he's doing right now. If LeBron James had been born at an average height of 5'9", he'd just be some guy who was tearing up the playgrounds up until the age of 25, and then you would never have heard of him, right? So this idea that black boys see sports and entertainment as their pathway to wealth is it's a waste a ton it's a waste it's a terrible waste of energy. It doesn't mean entertainment and sports aren't fun. It doesn't mean they don't have their place, but that's not the pathway to wealth because there aren't that many opportunities at the top. And a better pathway would be to also glorify those who became very successful through ownership, through education, things like that. The average black kid who becomes a college athlete, if they were to put the same amount of time that they put into practicing their sport into training in some other sport that's not a physical sport, but like a competitive sport, like the sport of mathematics or the sport of science or the sport of entrepreneurship, if they put that same energy into that sport that they put into basketball, football, and track, then they would do just as well. They would succeed just as well. That was my secret to success. In case you ever wanted to ask, I don't talk about my money that much. I don't like to talk about it because I'm not into that stuff. But I've been a millionaire for a while. I've been worth over $1 million for at least a decade now, and I can tell you that the number one variable that I used to build wealth and success and everything it actually came from playing sports. I played sports. I was like a lot of black kids. I was fast. I was strong, all these other things, but I couldn't make it to the NFL. I wasn't good enough to go to the NBA. I wasn't good enough to run in the Olympics, but there's a lot of good core value systems I picked up from playing sports. I learned how to work hard. I learned how to set goals. I learned how to fight through adversity. I learned teamwork. I learned how to deal with losing. I learned all these. I learned how to make a comeback, how to never give up. I watched Muhammad Ali growing up, and I watched him get knocked down and get back up. So all these value systems stayed with me, and I consciously internalized them, which allows me each day to get up, go hard, fail, and still come back just as hard every single time, right? And these little value systems, this mindset, that's what makes you great, and I think it's important that you give that to your kids. That's the best inheritance you can give them is their value system, right? So you got to be real careful about all the things that you pick up in media that trains young black men especially to feel sorry for themselves. It's not in a man's nature to sit around and be a whiny little bitch all the time. Excuse my French. It's okay. You can cry. Just cry in private, let it all out, and then figure out how you're going to get back up and go harder because of what you went through. Every setback is God's training camp. That is your opportunity to grow or your opportunity to fold. You got to make a decision. Which are you going to do? You ran into adversity. Are you going to grow or are you going to fold? Are you going to face it or are you going to run from it? If you face it, you will grow. If you run from it, you will fold. What do? What's your choice? Everybody has to make that decision. And I consciously do my best to say every time I run into a tough situation, no matter how bad I feel, my goal is to face it and go hard at it because I know that this is an opportunity to grow. Nobody grows, nobody becomes great without dealing with adversity. So train your children on this. That's really important. And I think that that's important to understand because we live in such a world where they want the black man to kind of get in his place, feel sorry for himself, and complain about how hard it is to be successful, and then to not even try, right? Because when you believe that success isn't for you, then why would you even go after something that you can't have? Why would you try to get something that you've been convinced is going to be for somebody else? You're not going to try something that you don't even believe you have a chance of obtaining. So unfortunately, when you get sort of labeled, like it's like special ed, I knew a kid who was a pretty smart kid, but they put him in special ed when he was a little kid. And you know what he did? What they did? They didn't teach him how to read. They didn't teach him how to read or anything. They would put him in a room because he was in special ed and he had a learning disability. They would put him in a room and they would sit there and they would read to the kids in the room all day. Because they were like, well, they have a learning disability, so they can't learn how to read. So they didn't even try to teach him how to read. Well, guess what happened? Do you think he ever learned how to read? No. He was 20 years old, still could not read because nobody said, hey, you know what? I know you got a learning disability, but we're going to try anyway. We're going to do everything we can to make sure we get every ounce of learning out of you that we possibly can. And that's the mindset that leads to success. You cannot just sort of fall into that victim box. That's a death knell. Attitude is everything when you're trying to succeed at whatever you're trying to do. Do me a favor, thumbs up. Please hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, share, subscribe. I'm almost done with the list. Okay, top 5 richest black families in America. So we got Robert Smith, Dave, Oprah Winfrey, Michael Jordan, JayZ, and the Carter family. Smith is at the top with 8 billion. Number 2 is 6 billion. Oprah is number 3 at 2.5 billion. Michael Jordan is 4 at 1.7 billion. JayZ is fifth at 1.7 billion, or JayZ and Beyonce, right? What I like about JayZ and Beyonce is I like the idea that they understand what royalty kind of looks like in terms of developing the power couple mindset, right? The power couple mindset to me is where you understand that when you're working together as a team and as a family unit, you're able to be more successful than if you try to do everything by yourself. So sometimes you have marriages that may not necessarily seem ideal. Like you might look at Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith's marriage and say, "Oh, that's a sham, that's a bad marriage, whatever." And it could be, who knows? But at the same time, the Smith family is doing extremely well. I'm very surprised they're not on the billionaire list. If they're not on there yet, they're going to be on there very soon. Even though Will, did that whole thing at the Oscars and slapped Chris Rock. Doesn't matter. Will Smith could slap everybody and still be close to being a billionaire. Why? Well, because Will Smith is an owner. Will Smith knows how to make money. Will Smith is an empire builder. Will Smith understands what it means to maintain his kingdom, right? And he understands his wife is a part of that. And so what you'll find is that a lot of wealthy men, they don't sort of engage in little boy behavior when it comes to women. They might have some fun when they're younger, but then they get to a certain stage in life and they realize, okay, I need somebody that's going to help me sort of run this kingdom and make this thing work. Even Shannon Sharpe, Shannon Sharpe, is that his name? The guy that does the sports guy. I want to say Shannon Sharpe. Yeah, I think it's Shannon Sharpe. I think that's his last name. You know what I'm talking about. The brother that does sports with Skip Bayless. He was talking about getting to a stage in his life where he realized that marriage was something that he needs to do in order to kind of, sort of settle down and create something more stable, more structured. So a lot of wealthy families, they understand that it's bigger than just the individual, that you're not going to do it all by yourself. If you actually analyze wealth across the board, what you'll find, they call that a cross section, where you look across a group of people and you say who's wealthy and who's not, and what are the characteristics of the wealthy people versus the characteristics of the not so wealthy people. You'll find that single parent homes are near the bottom when it comes to wealth 9 times out of 10. Also, if you're a man that has a lot of kids with a lot of women, that's going to really be a drain on your wealth, because every time you make more money, you get taxed. You get that baby mama tax, which is going to take even more out of your paycheck. And then also your legacy is tarnished because you're investing heavily in an asset that isn't going to benefit you, meaning that you're investing heavily in paying this child support for these kids that aren't really even going to like you that much, because they're going to be mad at you because you weren't really there, or you weren't in the household or whatever, and it's not even your fault, but you're going to deal with that. So I find that, like, sort of just that management of all the things that are valuable to you is a really important part of building wealth. In fact, there are 4 steps to wealth that we talk about in the Black Business School. The 4 steps are: 1, to develop what I call wealth awareness. That's, you got to, if you want to have money, you got to know where the money's at. A lot of people don't have any money because they don't even know where the money's at. They don't even know how rich people make their money. If you say, well, how do rich people get their money? They think that they get their money through like record deals and NBA contracts and all that. And it's like, no, you got to, rich people tend to make their money through real estate ownership, stock market investing, and owning their own business. Every single person on this list is a business owner. Not one single person on this list is an employee, period. The number 2, once you have wealth awareness, you have to develop a plan, right? So you know where the money's at. Now you develop a plan to go pick it up. That's the second step. I tell women, if you meet a man, if you like men with money, there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of women are attracted to men that have money, just like men are attracted to women with long, pretty hair and nice booties and all that. Women have certain things that they like. They tend to like power and security. So a powerful man is on average more attractive than a non-powerful man. A tall man over a short man, a muscle-bound man over a weak man, a courageous man over a wimpy man, right? Not that this is always 100% true. Not that you can't be a wimp and still get a woman, but it just means that in general, these things on average tend to be more attractive. So wealth is part of that. Give me a yes in the chat if you understand what I'm saying. That it doesn't make her a gold digger. It just means that she likes power and security. Very few women want to be connected to a man who can't provide some sort of support and protection, right? So ultimately, I tell them, I say, well, if you're looking for a wealthy man, ask him what his plan is. Like, if he doesn't have any money, figure out what his plan is. And if he can't really give you his plan, or his plan doesn't make any sense and the dots don't really connect that well, then that probably means that he doesn't have a plan, which means he's probably not going to really ever be wealthy. Like, if you ask anybody, are you going to be rich in 10 years? They're all going to say yes. Everybody's going to say yes. Are you going to be rich one day? Yeah, I'm going to be rich. Well, how are you going to be rich? If they can't tell you like how, then that says a lot about how much they thought about it. And it tells you a lot about, whether or not it's actually going to occur. And then at that point, you just observe, just watch their behavior. When they get money, what do they do with the money? or say, hey, if you had an extra $3,000, what would you do with that money? So if he says, yeah, oh, I would buy a lot of stock, that's good. Ding, ding, ding. If he says, I will go buy some real estate, that's good. Ding, ding, ding. If he says, oh, I would put money into my business and take my business to the next level, and he has some skill, then that's a good thing. But if he says, I would go buy me a new car, or I buy me some Jordans, or I buy me some, or I go on a vacation, or whatever it is, I get me a nicer apartment, right? Those are not necessarily wealth building things. So what's interesting is when you talk about like dating and choosing a partner, which is really important for your kids. Like if you choose the wrong partner, your kids are going to suffer, not just you. And a lot of times I'll see men impress women by spending lots of money. And spending lots of money is a double-edged sword. Sometimes a man can spend money because he's really got money like that, right? If I take you to dinner and we spend $200 on the dinner, it's not a big deal because I do actually have the ability to pay for that. But some people will spend a lot of money to impress you, and they're spending money is above what they can actually afford to spend. So they spend beyond their means, and they get to a point where they end up living paycheck to paycheck because whenever they get money, the money just kind of goes out of their pocket. So a lot of times really listening to someone have conversations about wealth tells you a lot about whether or not they're actually ever going to have it. So having a plan is really important. Like even when I was broke, even when I couldn't pay the rent, even when I was in my apartment without a nickel in my pocket, if you said, Boyce, how are you going to be wealthy? You know what I would have said? At 28, I would have said, I'm going to finish my PhD. I'm going to get a job making over $100,000 a year because that's what professors make. And then I'm going to invest more consistently in the stock market. That's a wealth plan. You could predict those things. I had a girlfriend when I was 19, terrible girlfriend. She was really mean, but I had this girlfriend a long time ago. And I remember her mother, literally, she pegged me. She said, I don't know if you're going to be rich, but one day you're going to have some money. And how could she tell that? Well, she could tell because I was studying really hard. I was not making dumb decisions. I wasn't out wasting time running to the club and getting involved in stupid stuff. I had a plan for my life, right? So you have to have a plan. So that the second step is really important. You figure out where the money's at. You make a plan to go get it. The third piece is important too. You got to work the plan. A lot of people do a lot of yapping, but no work. The question is on a day-to-day basis, what are you doing every single day that's moving you toward whatever that goal is? Wealth is nothing but an accumulation process. All wealth is an accumulation process. It's a race. It's like a race. It's like we're running. It's like we're running down the road, and the wealthy people are the ones who've gone further down the road than other people. That's it. That's it. You can think of wealth like a road. Like who's gone the furthest down the road? So really rich people have gone thousands of miles. Poor people have gone very short distances, right? You might be running hard, but you could be running on a treadmill. A lot of people running on a treadmill. You're hustling. It ain't to say you're not working hard. In fact, in America, this is the crazy thing about capitalism. The hardest working people are sometimes the least paid because you're positioned in the wrong space in the hierarchy. You're not positioned in a space where your labor is going to give you maximum benefit. It's like if I'm driving a car, I could be pushing the pedal as hard as you, but if I'm driving a crappy car, you're going to go faster than me. So ultimately, wealth is just an accumulation process. It's making the plan and then working the plan every single day, and it takes time to do this, right? So in a society where instant gratification is rewarded and discussed more than delayed gratification, you're going to have a lot of confusion about wealth because a lot of people think that it happens quickly when actually most wealth happens over a long period of time. Okay. All right. So the fourth piece to wealth, the fourth component to wealth, this is what's really important here too, because this is actually gets to these wealthy families. So I'm reading this list of the 5 richest Black families in America. And I think about the fourth leg of the wealth building process when I look at these families. I don't know if you guys know this, but 70% of all wealthy families lose all their wealth in the next generation. Did y'all know that? That 70% of all wealthy families lose all their wealth within one generation, and 90% of all wealthy families lose all their wealth in 2 generations. So your kids or your descendants or whoever your heirs they end up losing your money because they don't have the same values as you. They did. Why would they care? They didn't work as hard for the money as you did. So they end up throwing that money down the drain. So not having a proper estate plan can make a big deal. Not training your kids on how to manage and build wealth is can really harm you. So ultimately, that fourth piece, the fourth component to the wealth building process is protecting your wealth. You have to protect your wealth. When you start making a lot of money, you're going to be a target of people that are going to try to take your money. They're going to come try to take it through lawsuits. They might try to rob you. If you go through the hood and you shine and you just signed your NBA contract, think about how many times a guy signs a deal with in the NFL or something, and then he's driving through the hood and he's driving a Benz and he's got all these diamonds and gold on a ring on every finger, and the next thing you know he gets robbed, right? So ultimately, when you become wealthy, you become a target of people that want to get your wealth. They might try to get it through a sob story. They might try to scam you out of it. They might try to get you involved in stupid business deals, or you don't have a good estate plan. You don't have proper insurance. You don't have proper you don't have trusts and wills in place. Prince lost $100 million when he died because Prince did not protect his wealth. Prince lost $100 million when he died because he did not even have a will, from what I understand. That's crazy. You spent your whole life busting your butt, making the greatest music in history, fighting white supremacy like crazy. Next thing you know, these same people that you were fighting your whole life have $100 million of your money that could have gone to the black community. That is not cool. That is not appropriate. That is not smart. So you have to have a plan to protect your wealth if you ever want to grow it, or whatever the case may be. So those are the 5 richest black families in America. That's my analysis of it. I hope that this was helpful to you. Give me a yes in the chat if this benefits you on some level, if you learned something, because I really want you to succeed. I want you to be on top of your game, and I want your family to win. Okay. All right, guys. So anyway, I'm going to get on out of here. If you could hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. Also, I'm going to be in Los Angeles on March 10th for the Black Wealth Bootcamp. If you'd like to learn more, just visit BoyceWatkins.com. If you're watching on Instagram, you hit the link in the bio. It's right there. There's also a free training on my website called How to Make Money Without Working. That's where we talk about stock options. That's something that a lot of us don't know a lot about. I do. I'd love to talk to you more about that. So feel free to go take a look at BoyceWatkins.com. Last but not least, my new book is called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. You can learn more about that at BoyceWatkins.com or find a copy on Amazon. When we do the Black Wealth Bootcamp in LA, that is going to be the focal point. I'm going to go through that book. We're going to sit there. We're going to take notes. I'm going to give you plans and materials and a strategy. Your family will kill it. You will be ahead of 99.9% of all people in America, because I know what the hell I'm doing. I was on the faculty teaching wealth to white people, Jewish people, Asian people, etc., and black people at Syracuse University for 13 years. And now I'm 10 times smarter than I was even when I was at Syracuse, because I'm older and more mature and wiser in terms of understanding more about the world. I want to share all that with you. So every single year I'm learning just like you. So I'm getting better. I'm not the same guy I was 2 or 3 years ago. I want you to sort of consider that same philosophy. Never stop growing, never stop building, never stop learning. The black man is supposed to be the smartest man in the room. The black man is supposed to be the hardest working guy in the room. The black man is supposed to be the most consistent guy in the room. That's what I believe. That's what I know that we can do. That's what we're supposed to teach our kids, because if we teach that to our kids and we instill those values in them, they will win. They cannot lose, because we are not built to lose. God did not intend for you to be in the back of the bus. He intended for you to be in the front and for you to own the damn bus and for you to be the driver. So that's the goal. That's where we're going, and we ain't stopping until we win. So take care, guys. Have a good day. Please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. My website is BoyceWatkins.com. You can learn more about the boot camp there and the new book and everything else. I'll see you guys soon. Take care, and thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a good night. Be good. Peace.